Hey everybody, welcome back. Number 34 on the Criterion Collection, Andrei Rublev. That's the movie, not the director. The director is Andrei Tarkovsky, from the Soviet Union in 1966. Wow, man. So this is loosely based off the life of an artist, Andrei Rublev, who apparently was an icon painter. Essentially, he was an artist for the church. He would paint, the murals and all of that for churches. That was his primary task. From what I've read, it is very loosely based on his life. It hits some key points, but largely this film is a meditation on aspects, the philosophy and aspects of religion, the philosophy and aspects of art, sometimes independently or sometimes how they converge. It's uh, it's 3 hour. It's very slow. It's very slow. Would I recommend this movie? Strongly depend on your tastes. If a very slow meditation on philosophy sounds kind of like your jam, if you want to see black and white recreation of medieval Russia, I don't know. If that's what you're into, then there might be something here for you. But if the idea of watching a very slowly paced 3 hours of philosophy does not sound good to you, this movie will be torture for you. Just FYI. There is some interesting stuff in here because it starts to play as like a series of vignettes from his life, but they tie together better than I thought they were going to. Elements come back eventually that I wasn't sure that would. The prologue is largely unrelated to the film, and then the epilogue is just slow pans across some of his still existing artwork. There are some pretty severe examples of violence in the film, but they are hidden. There's usually somebody blocking the way, or the camera is at an angle where you don't see it. Um, I don't think I need to warn about all of it. I will warn one thing that's in here. There is a scene of a man beating a dog to death with a stick. You do not see the dog while the beating is going on, thankfully. That one's a little rough, just, as an animal lover. This one, it had some interesting points, some interesting ideas, but as a whole, it was way too much. Which, as you research the film, there are three versions of this film of differing lengths. And a lot of stories have gone out about censorship and having to cut back. But the director swears that he is the only person responsible for any cuts made to any of the versions. Uh, and there are the three different versions. Each one was shorter than the last. The Criterion collection is a restoration of the original longest version. So this was the director's original vision, but not his final vision, which is a little interesting, and I can definitely see where some editing would be helpful. Some of the shots just linger very long for no particular reason. Also, because it is a foreign film, and this is always a risk with a foreign film, especially a historical foreign film, I feel like I am missing some historical context to help aid my understanding of it. There's a big sequence where the Tartars are uh, sacking a church, sacking a whole village and the church, essentially. Um, and I will admit my ignorance. I don't know who they are or where they come from or what their motivations are. Now, if I'd grown up in Russia, I definitely would. I would have learned that in history. Instead, I was learning that Eli Whitney invented the cotton gin in history. And that is not a failing on the film's part. As we've talked about before, I do believe film should be a self-contained medium. You shouldn't have to read a book in order to understand the basics of the movie. Maybe you. Sometimes I read Wikipedia to deepen my understanding of a film, but you should be able to understand it as a story without help. That said, It is not a failing of a film if it leans on context specific to the culture that made the film. Because realistically, most films are being made for the culture that's making the film, right? I mean, sure, nowadays we gotta adjust this one for the Chinese market or whatever. But generally, if you're doing a more artistic piece, you're making it for your people. I hate to phrase it that way because that can have negative connotations, but hopefully you get what I'm saying. So there's not an inbuilt need to explain in detail every single aspect. Like I was able to pick up the Boyers are apparently some kind of ruling class. I am showing off so much ignorance here, and it is what it is. I can't know everything about every government history in the world. I just can't. But there's an extended sequence with the jester making fun of the Boyers. From there, and then he got arrested and spent 10 years in prison for making funny stories about Boyers. So I'm assuming they're some kind of ruling class with thin skins, as the ruling class usually is. Things like that. It did not hamper my ability to understand the story, at least, and to understand some of the philosophy. But there were certain things where I just had to take on faith. Okay, so these guys are sacking and raiding. Cool, got it. Anyway, I'm not going to keep going on and on and on because that's what this movie does. There were parts that I liked. It could have been tightened up quite a bit, and the director agreed and released tighter versions later. But now we're going to go back to France for a couple of movies. Our next movie, number 35, Diabolique, from Henri Jorges. I don't know how to pronounce foreign names. I think I just did French and Spanish. Henri Georges Clouzot. The next two movies are by him, and I have no idea how to say his name. From France in 1955. You'll get to hear me stumble over his name in the next video as well, and the one after that. But then we're going to go to a name I can pronounce. You'll see when we get there. Anyway, as always, thank you for your time. Have a good one.